The name of tonight's episode, everyone, of course, is A Black Man Can with a Black Man Plan. And of course, we are talking directly about Vice President Kamala Harris's economic opportunity agenda for Black men and really wanting to know what this panel thinks about it. Also, wanting to know what you guys out there think about it. We have currently 41 viewers tuning in from a variety of social media platforms. We want to hear from you. We have a friend here. I don't know my friend's name. My friend, hello. We're glad you're here. We want to see other people jump right into the chat formats on whatever resource or whatever platform you're looking from and give us what you think and your feedback as we talk about Vice President Kamala Harris's plan for the Black man and kind of what you think about it. Kenny, this is, of course, something that you've made a lot of content around. You've talked about it quite a bit on social media. What are your initial thoughts about Vice President Harris's plan for the Black man?
So since Black men have been complaining, saying they don't feel like they're being centered or heard, right now Kamala Harris said, look, you wanted it, I'm about to give it to you. Since you want to talk about tangibles, well, let's talk about it. Let's just jump into it. Kamala Harris has an economic initiatives offering up to 1 million forgivable loans, up to 20,000 for Black entrepreneurs, improving access to affordable banking services, creating regulatory frameworks to protect cryptocurrency investments, which are popular among Black men. When it comes to employment and education, increasing the funding and training for mentoring and also apprenticeship programs. I remember Dr. Umar Johnson was on the Breakfast Club and he was talking about apprenticeship programs. Well, here you go. Kamala Harris is giving it to you. When it comes to encouraging Black men to pursue careers in education, as somebody we see right here, Zach Kirk, who is also a former educator. When it comes to health initiatives, launching national initiatives to better fund research for treatment like health issues that disproportionately affect Black men, such as sickle cell, diabetes, and prostate cancer. And then when it comes to cannabis legalization, advocating for the legalization of recreational marijuana, ensuring Black men can also access economic opportunities in that industry. But before we get into anything else, I want to be very clear here. When we're talking about these policies that are targeted toward Black men, there's intersectionality here. It's not only going to benefit Black men, regardless of gender, sexual orientation. This will benefit the entire Black community. So I'm gonna need people to understand that all of these things are intertwined. You cannot help one without the other.
You absolutely can't help one without the other. But I think that it does say a lot to be in America, a place that, quite frankly, was built by Black labor. We haven't had a presidential candidate come out and say so clearly and so poignantly, listen, I'm talking to you. I'm trying to better your households. Kenny mentioned that there were safeguards for cryptocurrency. There are about 20% of African American men who have either invested in cryptocurrency or have current investments in cryptocurrency. This is more than just about saying like, hey, I'm going to do something for you. This is quite literally putting money inside of the Black households, but it's also positioning and structuring. I feel like Kamala Harris in the Walls campaign for the very first time in America is saying, hey, we see you as the head of the household. As coming from a history where we are stripping Black men out of households, we are systematically breaking Black households, tearing them apart, anywhere from slavery to, whether or not crack was dropped off in the hood, to implementing drug testing and getting rid of half of the factory workers that existed in the 70s, when they then turned around and simultaneously gave women the right to have credit cards, making women one of the biggest pushers of economics. When they took that power from Black men, Kamala Harris and the Walls campaign are saying, we're giving it back to you. We acknowledge you. You are the heads of your household. We see you and we want to help better you.
I think that for the most part, this is an answer to what your question has been. And don't you have no more excuses. You've asked, what does she do for Black men? You've asked, she does see Black men. She has a full out blow by blow for Black men. So I hope that there is no more questions about it. She's opening up more jobs as far as education goes for Black men. And they are definitely, as a former teacher myself, I know how important they are in a classroom. So I'm just happy to see this. So I hope this leaves no more room for question. I will say that.
So one thing I want to know, this is, and I have some thoughts, but I want to ask the panel to kind of think on this and then come back. We'll kind of come back to it. I want to know, Kenny did a good job of kind of indicating it to all of us that this is not just a plan for the black man, but it's a plan that anyone will be able to take advantage of and will be able to enjoy the advantages of. But there are people out there, like literally Tariq Rashid or whatever his name is, Mr. Bayang out there. But he literally said today and made a post saying that, once again, Kamala Harris and Democrats have failed the black community. This isn't a plan for just black men. It's a plan for everyone. And he's literally, using rhetoric to water down or to negate the effectiveness, of the plans. I do want to know from you guys, in order for something to be seen as black or as a plan for a black man, is it something that has to be very specific and only to that community? So while you think of that, I also want for my audience out there, I want to know, what is your favorite element of the plan? Of all the things proposed in the plan, what part of the plan is it that you like and appreciate the most? Now, this is kind of something I want to say and kind of add into the mix, is that personally, Vice President Harris has truly gone above and beyond in her efforts to reach every voter. And I think this was an essential step to ensure that any disenfranchised black man out there and black person out there is going to see that, one, she cares and she's making an effort. But even bigger than that, this is a fundamental step by Democratic leadership to truly give a level of reparations in a way that they can to the black community in ways that they have been done wrong and been systemically oppressed. A lot of people are really happy about the cryptocurrency part. As someone who never invested in cryptocurrency schemes, because that's how I've always seen them, that's not the part that excited me. But the part that excited me is the incentivization for black entrepreneurs to become invested in hydroponics, hydrophonics, hydroculture, which is the growing, harvesting, and the cultivation of cannabis. I think we know that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and so many black people are not a part of that industry. There are some in our community who know how to do this, who have been taught to do this well. Farming and agriculture is a mainstay of our culture, but we are not able to do it legally. We're not able to be involved in the opportunity to gain business or to earn capital from it. So for me, that's kind of one of the most exciting parts, of the plan for the black man. So, but I do want to know from you guys, what is the biggest part of the plan that you enjoy the most? And is this something can we make this be seen in the right way? And if we can, what do we even say to people like Tariq Nasheed or Rashid or whatever his name is? What do we even say to those people who are so determined to ensure that Vice President Harris doesn't gain the support that she deserves from our black community?
Can I at least start with Tariq Nasheed real quick? Just something really quick. It seems like he keeps moving the goalposts when it comes to Kamala Harris, and he loves to come about her biraciality. But first, he needs to check his wife's biraciality. If he wants reparations, he should ask it from his mother-in-law, who's white. But anyways, back to the point. When we're talking about policy and we're talking about things that impact the black community, the reason why we don't have these bills that say Wakanda, blackity black forever bill, the reason why there's not solely only for black people is because the mere fact that there's things called constitutional muster, right? What that basically means about constitutional muster, bills have to be inclusive enough to where they cannot be challenged in court. We saw with the American Rescue Plan where they allocated $4 billion to solely only black farmers, which was challenged by a former Trump aide in the courts and was struck down as unconstitutional. What we have to understand is any bill that specifically targets, when we're looking at the disparities and we're seeing the people that have been left behind, whether it be marginalized people, black communities, women, black men, gays, queer, whatever. When we're looking at bills that specifically target a group, we have to understand that there's going to be an intersectionality there. Even though this majority will help black people, it's going to also help others. Look at the American Rescue Plan again. When we actually passed the child tax credit and expanded that, the majority of black children were lifted out of poverty. 600,000 black children were lifted out of poverty due to that policy. It primarily helped black children, but it also helped white children. It helped Hispanic children. We have to understand that there's a commonality here, and it's not an us versus them situation. And that's what we have to get into.
We definitely have to get into that. One of my favorite parts of the plan was actually the initiative for healthcare. Obviously, we're not monolithic, but there is this overwhelming need. Number one, being Black in America is traumatic. period, the end. We just saw that little boy in Sarasota, Florida, walking down the street and was being harassed by three grown white men, so much so that one needed to go pull out the street artillery. We cannot exist here. That in and of itself should qualify for free healthcare. Like, I don't know. But to have a plan that highlights the need for mental health care, not just mental health care, prostate cancer, Black men are diagnosed with prostate cancer at almost a 12% higher rate than any other race. That's 1 in 6 Black men. Again, you do the math. African American people are 50% more prone to have diabetes before they die, and they are the largest group to have diabetes. The second one after that, to Kenny's point, is Hispanic, people who identify as Hispanic, which means that this is a Black and brown issue. And to Zach's earlier question, I think that it qualifies as a Black issue when you can quote sites like that. When we lead in these statistics and then you are going to speak to those statistics where we are the leader, that now qualifies as a Black issue. If it by proxy helps somebody else, we are all for that, because that's not what our community is about. And honestly, the fact that it's not what our community is about is what scares them. Them are so used to revenge and getting their lick back and all of that, that they are so scared that we're going to pull a them on them. If anybody can be helped whilst we're being helped, we're here for it. Like, go girl, go get that. So there to be safeguards around mental health and physical health, especially when we know by proxy, Black men, y'all don't normally be going to the doctors like that. So anything that helps get y'all in the door and get y'all tested and keep y'all around for a very long time, I support wholeheartedly.
I agree. And so someone said earlier, I think it was Kalana, make it make sense. Now, I don't know if you're talking about the plan itself, but in regards to making the plan kind of, make sense, this is a really good graphic that breaks it down, tons of videos on social media. But here are some of the main parts of the plan: is that it's going to give out up to $1 million in loans that don't have to be forgiven to entrepreneurs, small businesses, so that they can have seed money and startup money and just continued maintenance money in the amount of $20,000 per business. Also, it's going to incentivize getting more Black men into the field of education, also allowing them to
Yes.
be able to get student loans forgiven for that. I think, Milichan, because you're on two devices, it gives an echo. So just be mindful of that. I think so. There's a
Okay.
slight
Is
ringing,
that
but that
better?
always happens when you like log in or like try to watch it and stream at the same time. We talked about
Okay.
cryptocurrency, but there's
I wanted
also
to. I wanted.
Mhm. No, I'm gonna bounce it to you. But then
I
also
wanted
L
to.
talked about that the healthcare part,
Okay.
and we talked about
Can
the
you hear me?
marijuana. So, yeah, I hear you. And so we now bounce it to Millie.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You're frozen, friend.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
We can
Okay.
hear you now. You're a little glitchy.
Okay. I. Oh, let me do this. Okay. So I think that as far as what you were saying, Zach, the education part of it, I think as being, like I said, being a former teacher, I think it's so important that, we always say we want to see representation. We've had Black female teachers, of course. I think young boys need to see men as teachers. I didn't grow up with a lot of men in school, but I realized that is a very important aspect, and that I'm so happy about. And um, also rent, and as someone who wants to be a new homeowner, that is very important. The $25,000 down payment will help a lot of people, and to bring down the cost of rent for those who are paying rent, that makes a big difference, because that's a big thing right now for everyone. So all these things, as far as they go for Black men too, they go for everybody. So those are the things I really care about. It's all important, but those are the three top things for me.
the rent piece that Millie Tron was talking about, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I don't see all of these talking points, and ain't nobody talking about bringing down the cost of rent. Ain't nobody talking about bringing down the cost of rent." Kamala Harris, if you actually read, it's on page 5 of the document. If you would choose to go to kamalaharris.com, honestly, you can type in "opportunity agenda for Black men." That's literally all you have to type in, and the very first one is the 9-page doc. So, like, you're welcome. But anyway, she is talking about putting caps on all of these apartment buildings. It don't matter where you live, what state you in. It's a new apartment building going up every week. And guess what? The people
Yeah.
in the community cannot
They
afford
need
it.
to be
On
capped.
on top of all of that, they're made for commuters. No matter what city you're in, your them apartment buildings in your city is made for somebody to commute to the next largest city. And so guess what? They're 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. They're not space enough for family. So not only are you priced out, and then the next jump is what a house, renting a house, buying a house. God bless. So she's putting caps on that, and then in turn, if you are looking to buy a house, you are getting that $25,000 in down payment assistance. That housing market ain't nothing to play with. And so again, when you have one person who just learned about IVF, literally just the other day, one person who tells you that he invented IVF, he is IVF, like we have to start really looking at what day-to-day life looks like with both of these candidates in office.